Today's story is the story of Cinderella. I told you we'd be talking about more princes and princesses. Now I have several books about Cinderella. This one is from 1964. I had this when I was a little girl. I'm not going to read you this one today. I'm going to read to you from this one. Right? Here we go. Cinderella. It uses pictures from the movie that I know you know. Here we go. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, stood an old mansion. It had belonged to a rich man and his little daughter, Cinderella. But he died, leaving her in the care of her stepmother and her own two daughters, Anastasia and Drusilla, and they made Cinderella work as their servant. That's the storybook of Cinderella. There was a great castle up on the hill overlooking the city. The king was talking to the Lord Chamberlain. He was angry. The prince must realise his responsibilities and get married, the king shouted. I know, he said. The prince is coming back tonight. We'll have a ball this evening to celebrate his return. You must see that every eligible maiden in the kingdom is invited. There's the castle. And there they are, arranging to have a ball party. At Cinderella's house, there was a loud knock at the door. When Cinderella opened it, there stood a royal messenger. It's urgent, he said as he handed the girl an important-looking envelope. The envelope contained the invitation to the royal ball that evening. All eligible maidens are invited, Cinderella gasped. Why, that means I can go. Of course, said her stepmother smoothly, if you can get your work done and if you can find something to wear. Cinderella had an old dress of her mother's in the attic. So Jacques, Gus and the other mice, her little friends, knew they could turn it into a beautiful ball gown. All they needed was some trimmings. So Jacques and Gus went off to find something. In a fit of temper, Drusilla and Anastasia had thrown away a sash and some beads. Just the thing, the mice thought. Up in the attic, there was an enormous activity. All the mice worked so hard as they transformed the old dress into a beautiful ball gown for Cinderella. There they are. Downstairs, Cinderella sadly went on helping her stepsisters to get ready. The clock struck 8. Anastasia, Drusilla and their mother prepared to get into their carriage, which was waiting at the front door. Cinderella sadly went back to her attic in tears because she wanted to go to the ball too. But the mice quietly swung the cupboard door open and there was the dress. Surprise! Surprise! They shouted. Cinderella could hardly believe it. Quickly she put it on and ran down the stairs. Wait, she called to the others. Will I do? And she stood in the hall, looking lovely in the dress the mice had made. Isn't that pretty? Anastasia and Drusilla could not believe it. How dare Cinderella think that she could come to the ball? She looked so beautiful. That's my sash, one shouted, and those are my beads, cried the other. And they fell on poor Cinderella and tore her lovely dress to shreds. Uh-oh. they set out for the ball, Cinderella ran into the garden, crying bitterly. All the animals crowded around her. They were angry and unhappy. What could they do to help? Suddenly, the night air sparkled and shimmered. A little old woman, dressed in a long blue cloak, suddenly appeared. "Stop crying, child," she said softly. "You cannot go to the ball with red eyes." Cinderella was amazed. "Who are you?" she gasped. "I am your fairy godmother," the old woman said, and she plucked her magic wand out of the air and waved it. There she is. "Bibbity bobbity boo," she sang, and the fattest pumpkin in the pumpkin patch turned into a magnificent coach. "You'll need horses," the astonishing old woman said. And the magic went on. Bibbity bobbity boo. The mice became horses, the old horse became the coachman, and Bruno the dog turned into a footman. There they are, all watching the magic. So exciting. Then the fairy godmother turned to Cinderella, standing almost speechless in her rags. Once more she waved the magic wand. The words were said, bibbity bobbity boo, and the rags were transformed. There's the rags, and now look at her. Cinderella looked down on her enchanted dress. It shimmered in the moonlight as though it were made of diamonds and stardust. On her feet were tiny, exquisite glass slippers. "Now remember," said her godmother as Cinderella got into her coach, "you must leave the ball before midnight. On the stroke of 12, the spell will be broken." In the great ballroom of the palace, the prince was being introduced to a long line of girls. Suddenly, the prince noticed a graceful figure in a wonderful dress standing outside the door. He hurried forward to meet the stranger. It was Cinderella. The prince and Cinderella began to dance. They had fallen in love as soon as they had looked at each other. After a while, the prince took Cinderella out into the gardens, where they continued to dance by the moonlit fountain. Suddenly, the clock struck. It was midnight. "I must go," cried Cinderella, and she fled. There's the clock, 12 o'clock. "No, wait, come back," the prince called, running after her. He did not even know the name of the girl. But she had gone, and all that was left was a tiny glass slipper on the staircase leading out of the palace. "Call out the guard," the prince ordered. "Find her. I will only marry the maiden who can wear this slipper." But although the soldiers rode hard down the road, they did not find the lovely stranger. The only person they saw was a girl dressed in rags, sitting by the side of the road with some animals and a broken pumpkin. Because that's what happened when the magic ran out. Turned back into a pumpkin, and the animals all turned back into their former selves. The king was enraged when the chamberlain woke him up with the news. When he heard about the glass slipper, he knew exactly what to do. "Issue a proclamation," he commanded. "The prince will marry the girl the shoe fits." The following morning, Anastasia and Drusilla were sleeping late after the ball. When the Lord Chamberlain and the royal messenger arrived with the proclamation and the slipper, Cinderella's stepmother saw her opportunity. One of her daughters must wear the slipper and marry the prince. Anastasia and Drusilla tried on the slipper, but it would not fit. The stepmother had told the Lord Chamberlain that there was no one else in the house, and they were about to leave when Cinderella appeared on the staircase. "May I try on the slipper?" she asked. Anastasia and Drusilla were seething with rage, but there was nothing they could do. The Lord Chamberlain insisted that Cinderella must be allowed her chance. But as the royal messenger passed the stepmother, carrying the glass slipper on a cushion, she tripped him up, and the slipper fell to the floor and smashed into 1,000 pieces. Uh-oh. "It doesn't matter," said Cinderella. "Look, I have the other slipper." And she drew out of her pocket of her ragged old dress and put it on her foot. It fitted perfectly. Prince Charming and Cinderella were married. The king and his Lord Chamberlain were overjoyed, and the mice, now enrolled as honorary palace guards, waved enthusiastically from the balcony as the couple walked down the red-carpeted staircase and into the waiting carriage. The team of 6 white horses harnessed to it were led by a 7th, Cinderella's old friend, now glossy and triumphant. And when the honeymoon was over, they all lived happily ever after. Now, I hope you enjoyed that story. All right, now there is a sentence for you to write today, and the sentence is, Cinderella lost her slipper. And your grown-up can help you by helping you choose which of the cards have the right sounds and the right words to fill in the gaps and the sentence that I've written out for you. And you can write your name, and then you can draw a lovely picture on the back. Well, you have a lovely day.